Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdarch.
Nerdarch is Ted.
Enhance your games with alternate forms of treasure. We're going to start this video by thanking Nord Games for sponsoring it. Whether you're looking for Game Master accessories, monsters to add into your game, or NPCs, Nord Games has got you covered. Head over there or jump down to the description where you can find a promo code to get a discount on Nord Games, as well as a link. If you click that, it'll give you 10% off on anything in the shop. Go check out Nord Games. So go power up your game with Nord Games.
Alright, so today we're talking about sprucing up treasure. We're trying to put the wow in the treasure. What do we got going on?
Right. Instead of just saying, hey, you found 15 gold pieces in a pouch or laying on the ground, what can we do that's better? Well, I want to say, like, one of the things that I've seen that is really awesome, and that was the Nord Games treasure decks. Even when they were running a Kickstarter and they had the sample cards up, I was like, oh man, these look really cool. Like, there was the Druid one, and it was like, you find a pair of antlers with a rune inscribed on each, and each one is, you know, a Druid cantrip. And I thought that is really thematic and kind of cool, instead of just saying, oh look, here's a scroll.
Right, and you know, it's still a one-use thing. It's still a consumable treasure. Has the same value, but it's more thematic. It's more interesting.
Now, throughout our gaming history and careers, we've done tons of stuff with various magic items and rewards that we put into our games.
And it goes further than just sprucing up what's there. There's times that you can actually make things more thematic, more interesting for the adventurers once they've defeated the monster and they're ready to loot the lair. And in case in point, in one of my recent games, not like, I ran a Death Tyrant, a Beholder. Well, I took into account what Beholders view, and they like things that are orbs, they like things that are spherical. So I put things that were up on pedestals and designed it as if the Beholder put these things as a symbol of worth and value, regardless of how unique or interesting the magic item was. So anything that had to do with eyes, anything that was spherical, anything that was like an orb, it was there on display. All the other stuff was literally just tossed in a pile, and the players got to go and say, well, this thing is awesome. Why is this just cascaded on the floor while this worthless thing is up here in severe prominence?
+5 Holy Avenger? It's so ugly.
This is not a sphere.
Yeah. I own a Sustenance? Ooh, or whatever it was. Yeah, your Beholder, it kind of like showed off a characteristic of your monster. Your Beholder kind of had a personality, and he had a bit of a fetish for eyes and things that are spherical.
Yeah, I recently had a campaign where I had a Dwarven Hold, and in that Dwarven Hold there was a stick with a bunch of runes on it, and it was a stirring stick for brews, and it had a whole bunch of brewing recipes. So rather than a book, I had it encased in like this stick, and it was magic, but the only magic I had on it was that it wasn't like decayable. It wasn't going to turn to dust or anything like that. And later on, the players liked it so much that I ended up giving it extra abilities because they were just so attached to this magic stick. But it's like, because it made it interesting. It wasn't just, instead of a gemstone in a treasury, I just substituted in something that I thought, well, this is about the same on par value. It's a whole bunch of old Dwarven recipes for brews that are awesome. So that's what I did. And they loved that way more than a 50 gold piece gem.
Yeah, and you could have just as easily said it was worth 50 gold pieces or 25 gold pieces and just put a value to it and never gave it any other abilities. And it would be an interesting piece of treasure that, in this case, they actually didn't want to get rid of, right? They wanted to keep it.
Yeah, they wanted to keep it.
And I've done that before, too, where you just make something up, and it's just like a piece of jewelry, and one of the characters identifies with it, and they're like, oh, I want to keep that. I don't want to sell it. You know, as my portion of the treasure, I will keep that brooch, and I'm just going to wear it. It's just a mundane item. It's not magical. It just had a look that they liked.
And in regards to designing mundane items, some of the actual items in the Nord treasure decks actually have that kind of description. One of the ones that leaped out to me was a rapier with a scalloped handguard in the shape of a lotus blossom. I'm like, that's pretty darn cool, and that's something that, all right, it might be twice the value of a rapier or a little bit more. Doesn't give a GP value on the card. You can set it at whatever you want, depending upon what kind of gems or precious stones you want to have inset in there. And by doing that, that's scalable. You can put that in at any low level, and if you've got somebody who fights with a sword or prefers a rapier, that's something that's like, he put this in for me, and it could just literally be a random treasure grab that you rolled.
And I could definitely see a player, like, you could make it just a rapier with the rapier value in the book, literally. But I could see a player is like clinging to and holding on to, oh, well, this has got to be special. There's got to be something going on here.
This was from my first adventure.
Right, or, it might spring another adventure as I try and figure out about this rapier and its history. And, like, you can start filling in some blanks, and maybe there is a colorful and interesting history to go along with it.
And as Nate said, the players can get attached to an item, and just like the stirring stick, if they really get drawn into an item that you literally had as nothing but mundane, sure, change the thing. Well, maybe it used to be magical, and its properties have been lost or suppressed, and now it's a quest, and it's literally spurred by nothing more than the player's interest in a random piece of treasure.
Right, and in this case, something that was randomly rolled, possibly even. So there's things like that. Recently in my game, I've realized that I haven't been very good about putting magic items in. So I'm like, I'm going to include this set. I was inspired by Matt Mercer in Critical Role, because there's a cool dagger that he's got where if you throw it, you can teleport to it. And I don't know the specifics of it, but I kind of like conceptually, I totally ripped it off. So I have a set of daggers and a brooch, and you have to have all three in your possession. If you do, and you attune to them, if you throw a dagger as a reaction, you can call it back to your hand, or if you throw a dagger as a bonus action, you can teleport to it or Misty Step to it. And that's basically the range to 30 feet. It's fun. I gave it to a really creative player. I know I'm probably going to regret some of the uses that come up with this, but I thought it would be fun, and it's something just interesting to add into the game. In your game too, you actually allowed my character to craft an item using a special material, shark steel, and it didn't really do very much for the weapon per se, but one of the other characters wanted it, so he had me craft a glaive for him that is made of a special material, and I think it's like, what is it, once a day or once a short rest you can get advantage on an attack or something.
Uh-huh.
So now, like, that's actually in the game, and at some point that may be passed down or become treasure somewhere else.
Something I liked about the treasure decks was that you could take a mundane item and just have a description for it. So one of the things I liked was some of the descriptions here. So for a fair-sized wooden box, etched with a map of the known world, filled with an adventurer's gear, which includes an explorer pack and cartographer's tools. So you know how much those are going to cost from the player's handbook, and you kind of know what that treasure gauge is at. But it gives you a nice description. You can just read it off to the players. And sometimes I just like that, just to not be, hey, you get 15 gold, or here, 25 gold, and bam.
Well, I like the idea of the chest with the map of the known world on it. I think that's kind of cool too.
See, if I were
because that can be more story.
If I were to be a PC and I were to get that, to me that would mean something. That's like, okay, whose was this? How did this get to wherever I am? I need to know what's going on, because to me there's more there. You say story. I'm like, is there an NPC that this was stolen from? Is there someone out there who hadn't had this made and fell in battle? Like, this just seems so much more than just a piece of treasure.
Well, what if that character is actually skilled in geography, or comes across another map of the known world, and there's discrepancies?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, there's some stuff on this box that isn't on this other map. Is that perhaps another adventure? Could be.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different directions that you could take it, and that's just one small option on one card.
Yeah, and I find that the mundane things you give descriptions to are gonna kind of jumpstart the players' minds on what their characters are going to do with that, rather than just trying to hawk it somewhere. They're going to be like, "Huh, I wonder what this is about."
All right, so now let's flip the table a little bit and say, okay, not really, not literally. Now, if we're players and we keep getting these things over and over again, how do you as the DM handle the every single item has got one of these cool features or stories to it? What do you do? Like, do you just keep doing it? Do you allow your players to run all over the map, searching for whatever lost stories that you've put out there?
Well, it really depends on what kind of game you want to play, and do they have pressing things that they're working on? An example is in my game is they're hunting down a criminal. They're trying to stop a world-ending event. Like, some of those things just aren't going to be as important when you have these other things going on. In your game, we're trying to destroy an evil artifact. So there isn't going to be a lot of time for all that running around, but that doesn't mean you can't put it in there, and then it might not mean something later on. I think it's really fun, especially in the lower levels of the game.
Yeah, and the players definitely waited until after they were done the Goblin War, they started to figure out what the stirring stick really did.
So I just wanted to get that out there so that DMs who see this kind of stuff aren't intimidated by putting that out there, and having the ability to say, okay, well, there's times that the core story needs to keep moving forward, and urgency is good.
But that being said, like, the players could still decide that what that stirring stick is doing or where it came from is way more important than a invasion from the Vargarians, and decide to do that instead. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means the Vargarians might invade, or someone else might fix the problem, and they get to hear about the other heroes.
Yes, it's true. The players could decide that, and you're just gonna be shaking your head while they're not looking. Oh man.
The world is going to end, but you want to create master brews.
Sorry, I didn't say we were paying post-apocalyptic, but we are now.
Right. Well, and it'll just influence the game, and that's fine too. Like I'm kind of guilty of that all the time. I just throw out plot hook after plot hook, subplot after subplot, and the players can do with them what they want. And you know what? If it's not important to the player and it's not that important to me or pressing to me, I'll just let them slide by. Don't even care. And if they go back to it later, they do. Or maybe if I can pull it back in an interesting way, I will. But I don't really worry about it. So I don't think it's a big issue. There was also a couple examples of alternate kind of like fun, cool treasure things right in the deck. I think you got them in front of you, Nate.
Oh yeah, there's a few here. A common-looking quill that magically writes in an unwanted language when used, worth 27 gold pieces. A lucky rabbit's foot that allows the wearer to jump an extra 5 foot once per day, worth 28 gold pieces. And a cord bracelet that allows the wearer to lift an additional 50 pounds for 5 minutes once per day, and it's worth 28 gold pieces.
Now, they're interesting one-shot items. They don't do a whole lot, but I think creative players are going to find ways to use them and insert them into the game. I think there was even one, like a smoking pipe. If you use it for a week or once a week or something, you can get a +2 on a check. I don't know. I'm not sure what message that sends either, Nord Games. There should be like an age thing, or smoking pipe weed will definitely cause cancer or something to go along with that.
Sometimes you just have to sit and think.
Well, sometimes you just have to like step out of reality to get into fantasy.
But either way, like, all of that is really cool, and they're just fun things that you can add into your game, and I think it's that kind of stuff that I feel like players really appreciate.
So, what do you guys think? How are you using special treasures for, one use or mundane items? And why don't you continue that conversation down below while you're down there? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can get your 10% discount to Nord Games either through the promo code or by clicking the link in the description below.
You can also check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.